Look closely at this warrior. He is bleeding, suspended on dozens of arrow shafts, yet completely at peace. Bhishma chose this. He was the supreme commander of the Kaurava army, and every arrow beneath him was part of a specific strategy to stop his own heart. To win the Kurukshetra war, the protagonists, the Pandavas, faced a severe intellectual paradox. They had to ask their greatest enemy for permission to kill him. What happened here defies standard military tactics. This was the moment where ultimate power yielded to a higher cosmic duty. For the first 10 days of the war, Bhishma systematically decimated the Pandava forces without taking a single scratch. You can see the scale of the crisis facing Yudhishthira and the Pandava command. They're effectively paralyzed, watching their strategy collapse under Bhishma's assault. The reason they couldn't stop him is a divine boon called Icha Mrityu. It gave Bhishma the absolute right to choose the exact time of his own death. As long as Bhishma stood on the battlefield holding that boon, the Pandavas faced a war with no possible path to victory. Running out of options, the Pandavas and Krishna executed a desperate maneuver. Under the cover of midnight, they crossed enemy lines and walked straight into Bhishma's tent. Yudhishthira, the eldest Pandava, looked at his own grandfather and asked a deeply counterintuitive question. "How do we kill you?" Bhishma gave them the single flaw in his armor. He followed an ancient, rigid warrior code that strictly forbade him from raising his weapons against a woman. By handing over this methodology, he compromised his own army's defense. He chose to let universal dharma prevail over his personal allegiance to the throne. To exploit this vulnerability, the Pandavas brought forward Shikhandi, a warrior born biologically female who lived as a man. Their presence on the field would force Bhishma to lower his guard. This timeline illustrates a fatal chain reaction. Decades earlier, Bhishma abducted Princess Amba out of Duni, ruining her life. Her unyielding desire for vengeance bypassed death itself. She secured a rebirth as Shikhandi, guaranteeing she would face her captor on the battlefield. Even with a divine gift of invincibility, Bhishma could not escape the specific consequences of his past actions. The same hands that abducted a princess decades ago now found themselves unable to reach for a bow in her presence. On the 10th day, the Pandavas deployed a distinctly rule-breaking formation. Arjuna positioned himself at the vanguard, hiding directly behind Shikhandi. The moment Bhishma spots Shikhandi leading the charge, he honors his ancient code. He lowers his weapons, closes his eyes, and willingly accepts his fate. Arjuna immediately exploits this sudden surrender, firing a relentless, devastating volley of arrows directly into the unarmed commander. The Pandavas secured their victory, but the moral cost was steep. Arjuna had to abandon standard warrior ethics and use a human shield to do it. When Bhishma finally fell, his body never touched the earth. There were so many shafts piercing his armor that they supported him entirely in midair. He invoked his boon of Icha Mrityu to pause his own death. He chose to wait for Uttarayan, the sun's auspicious northward journey, before letting go of his life. This manuscript documents the lore of the Sharshaya, or bed of arrows. It functions simultaneously as a brutal physical punishment and a throne of ultimate detachment. This bed of arrows physically manifests the epic's core theme. Earning victory in this war required grueling moral compromises and immense karmic suffering. By removing their immortal obstacle, the Pandavas destroyed the last barrier of traditional battlefield honor. Command of the Kaurava forces transferred to Dronacharya, signaling a sharp pivot toward ruthless, unrestrained warfare. The immediate consequence of this leadership change was the plotting of a deadly, inescapable formation known as the Chakravyuha. Solving the paradox of the invincible commander unknowingly opened the door to an even darker chapter of the war. Follow for daily Mahabharata. Like and share.